Okay, friends, so next up in the DIY macro series is actually translating the macronutrients you've calculated for yourself into meals. How do we actually utilize these numbers we've got and put them into actual food that we can eat on a day-to-day basis? So let's kick through this one. I don't want to take too long here. So basically, how many meals should we be having on a day-to-day basis? You can eat as little as one meal per day and see really good results for fat loss. You can maintain your muscle mass on that. You can perform decently well in the gym. However, you need to hit all those macros within that one meal. So it means eating probably a lot of food in that one meal and potentially not being able to hit all of your protein within that one meal. So probably not the best idea for most people. And especially when you're training, you're going to have to try to determine where you're going to place that meal. If you place it before your training, you can have a really good training session because you're going to be fueled and feeling good. But then you're going to feel rubbish after your training session because you're not going to be able to restore any kind of depleted glycogen or help with recovery by ingesting protein after the workout. If you place that one meal after your workout, well, then you may feel rubbish going into your training session, but then being able to refuel really well. So it's probably just not the best idea for most people. For muscle gain, we do need multiple meals to enhance muscle protein synthesis and, of course, the muscle growth response to our training. So 3 to 5 meals per day is probably best for most people. It helps to keep hunger at bay throughout the day. You're having consistent intake throughout the day and never feeling too hungry. Helps to fuel your daily activities. So if you got a job to do, which most of us do, you're not going to be feeling rubbish throughout the day because you're either starving because you haven't eaten since the morning, or you're feeling irritable because you have eaten all your calories for the day and now you're fasting for the afternoon and all your colleagues don't want to be around you because you are a ravenous mess. So definitely probably want to have consistent meals. Likely better for social life as well. So having those frequent meals throughout the day enables you to go out for social occasions, going out for a coffee with a friend or having a dinner out in the evenings. If you're, deciding to have less meals than that, you may have to be fasting throughout those periods and limit your enjoyment there. And better for fueling performance, of course. So, actually having meals close to workouts where they can actually enhance performance and also enhance recovery. For best results, consuming meals every 3 to 4 hours is recommended. Sandwich your workouts with meals 1 to 2 hours either side. So if you're training, 5 p.m., having a small meal at 3 p.m. is a good idea, and having a meal 1 to 2 hours after that workout is a good idea as well to help with enhancing the recovery and the muscle protein synthetic response to that training session as well. So really just optimizing our results via sandwiching our workouts with meals either side. Now, if you're training fasted, you've got to be aware of the training volume you are doing. So if you're going in for a training session and first thing in the morning, you've been asleep for 7 hours, and the meal you had before going to sleep was another 2 hours, so you've been fasting for 9 hours. That's a long period of time to be fasting. And if you've got a very high training volume session coming up, then you may consider carbs pre-workout or intra-workout carbs to help with that situation. So it could be anything just like, some fruits, or it could be, drinking Powerade or Gatorade throughout your workouts to enhance your session that way. However, if your session is not crazy high in volume, say it's under 45 minutes of working out, or it's a strength-based session where you're not doing lots and lots of sets and lots of reps, then you can potentially just go in there completely fast and not really worry too much about this. As long as you're not feeling hungry is probably the key takeaway there. If you're feeling hungry, it may actually be a detriment to your training session. And lastly, don't go to bed hungry, but you might want to limit your intake after sundown. So our tissues are more insulin sensitive in the morning or earlier half of the day, and a little bit less sensitive in the evenings when it gets closer to bedtime. Basically coinciding with our natural biological clock. So probably a good idea if you value metabolic health to reduce total calories in the evening closer to bedtime. So macros per meal. Protein per meal, we want to split it as evenly as we can across the day. Minimum, say 0.3 grams per kilogram per meal, and preferably closer to 0.5 grams per kilogram per meal, specifically for plant-based individuals, so we can really make use of higher protein meals, so we can ensure that we're having higher total amino acids per meal and a larger intake of specifically leucine per meal, which is going to be really, really important for maximizing muscle protein synthesis per meal. So having a higher total amount of protein per meal just ensure that we maximize our amino acid content of those meals. So trying to target that higher end is a good idea. So for an 80 kilogram individual, 24 grams at the lowest, 40 grams at the highest there is a good target to hit on an even basis throughout the day. When it comes to targeting carbohydrates in terms of macros per meal, again, you'll probably want to just split this as evenly as you can. There's a few things to be aware of though, so prioritizing carbohydrates pre-workout. If your training volume is very high, say over 45 minutes, lots of sets, and we want to really benefit from a little bit of carbohydrate pre-workout in that case. So in all other aspects, it probably can be pretty even. But one other thing to be aware of is you may want to reduce carbohydrates in some specific meals just to allow greater spend at social events. So if you've got a birthday party coming up or a work function or something like that in the evening, it might be a good idea to go for a much lower carb lunch and breakfast just to allow and borrow some calories from those meals and push them out into your evening and be able to spend those at your evening occasion to make things a little more easier for you. Fats, again, splitting them as evenly as you can. You probably want to do this with most of your macros across the day, so you've got nice, well-balanced meals throughout the day. Nothing too crazy, extreme on either side. May pay to reduce them slightly prior to training, just due to some of the GI distress you can have from really high-fat meals early before training, especially things like endurance training and sporting events. But a small amount might be helpful for people who tend to feel a little bit lightheaded, like they've got low blood sugar during a workout. So having a little bit of fats prior to working out is a good idea as well. So over the course of the day, mainly you just want to focus on those even protein targets on each meal, and then the rest of them split up quite evenly. So to give you an example of this to finish up here, an 80 kilo individual, as we used in the last presentation, their calories ended up being 2,200 calories, protein at 128, fats at 60 grams, and carbohydrates 287 grams. So how do we split that up into a day of eating? And you can do this for yourself as well. Once you've got your numbers, you can just look at your day of eating and almost create a bit of a meal plan for you based on how you want to split that up. So as an example here, meal 1, 8 a.m., protein 32, fats 15, carbs 70. So what we're doing with the protein is we're basically just evenly splitting that throughout the day, 32 grams in most meals, and you'll see how this pans out through the remainder of these meals. Protein oats, peanut butter, berries, super simple, 32 protein, 15 fats, 70 carbs. Okay, pretty even split there. Meal 2, 12 p.m., we've got protein again, 32 grams, 15 fats again, carbs 70, so very much the same, just obviously different meal here. So lunchtime, tofu, pumpkin, beetroot, quinoa salad with a low calorie dressing on top there just to reduce the fats a little bit. Our pre-training meal, 3:30 p.m. Proteins at 20 grams, a little bit lower, not for any other reason other than that we don't want to be consuming heaps and heaps of food right after the lunch meal and right before training, so just a little bit lower on the protein here. Fats a little bit lower as well, 10 grams, so again, just reducing the total content of that meal. And then carbs, still keeping pretty high at 70 grams. You could go even higher if you had a really high volume session coming up, but because you've had already 2 meals leading up to this meal with high carbs, it's not going to be an issue at all. So just an even split of carbs throughout this day is totally fine. Protein bar and a banana, super simple. And then the final meal of the day, this would also be counted as the post-workout meal, so we do want to really prioritize protein. So what I've done is just taken the remainder of the protein we had from this day and popped it into the last meal here, so it comes out as 44 grams of protein. Fats at 20 grams, so a little bit higher to make up for the lower fats in the meal 3 meal. And our carbs, again, even split throughout the day at 70 grams of carbohydrates. So this might be teriyaki seitan, edamame, broccoli, and brown rice. Really simple. And so that would be the last meal of the day. You'd be aiming to limit any calorie intake for the remainder of the day leading up to nighttime and leading up to bedtime. And this would be a really well-structured way to plan your intake. So you can do this yourself. Again, use your calorie intake, use your macros, split it up evenly throughout the day based on these suggestions that we're giving you, but also based on personal preference. Some people like to have a larger meal in the morning. Some people like to have a larger meal in the evening. So you want to bias the calories to the times of day where you're likely going to be the most hungry. So if you're someone who is really, really hungry in the mornings, that might be a good idea to reduce maybe either your lunch or your evening meal and shift some of those calories earlier in the day. And so you can split this up to based on whatever preference you have. But again, you have the autonomy in this situation. It's not about somebody telling you exactly what to eat. You know you better than anybody else, so you can split this up in a way that works best for you. So I'm going to leave this one here, and next up we have optimizing tracking accuracy. So we're going to really look into ways that we can get the most out of our tracking and make sure that it's as accurate as possible. That way, when we do decide to make adjustments, and that's going to be in the next presentation after this one, when we look at making adjustments into our calories, we can be pretty sure that our numbers are correct and we're making worthwhile adjustments off that.